Back to limiting beliefs, which you talk about in your book a lot, and it's fascinating. You basically say you're always your own biggest critic.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Where did these beliefs come from to start with? How can you find that out?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, like you say, becoming aware of what your beliefs are, because a lot of people don't even realise they have them. And I just find, like, literally listing all the things that you think you're bad at, or that you think you can't do, or that you think you're not capable of doing, or just things you tell yourself, like, on a daily basis. Like, you know, I have no willpower. A lot of people say that, and then they use that as an excuse to go and eat a cake. Again, been there. I think we all have.
I've got a cupboard full of chocolate-coated peanuts. I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, not succeeding at something is not proof that you can't do it. And again, it might be true that you couldn't do it in the past. It doesn't mean that you can't do it now. People are constantly evolving and growing and learning, hopefully, and improving themselves, and constantly having new experiences which teach you how to do certain things. So you might be telling yourself you can't do something, but that might have been true of you 10 years ago, whereas now it's completely not true. You've just never stopped and paused to think or to reconsider whether it is true or not. And just doing that can really help, like, to start with. Like, you know, you might be saying, like, oh, I'm bad at maths, I'm not even going to try and do this. But you might have been bad at maths at school because you hated school, whereas now you're not in a school environment and you can do it fine and it's not a problem. But just reconsidering what you've told yourself all your life, because you're constantly changing, and that means what you're capable of doing is constantly changing as well.
You might tell yourself that you're bad at something, like, oh, I'm bad at art because nobody's bought any of my art. Ask yourself, how many people have seen your art? What has your audience been? Have people been able to buy it easily? Just because you don't sell much of something doesn't mean you're bad at it. It's not a reflection on who you are. It might be a reflection of the way you're going about trying to do it, but that's something that can be fixed and worked on.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, still removing the external negative influences we're going on to now. So you said about doom scrolling, which is basically you just sat there looking at all the bad news on your phone. Oh my god, what's this world becoming?
Well, all the people on your social media feed who are just like, doom! Like, they're always constantly negative, they never post anything uplifted, they're constantly posting politics, you know, or like news that's bad in the world and
things they can't control.
Yeah.
And they're getting angry about it. Remove that from your life, basically.
Unfollow them.
It's harsh, but yeah, unfollow them. You don't need that in your life. If you want to keep a positive mindset, well, it's like that thing where they say that your brain's like a kind of container, and it's only got a certain amount of stuff that it can hold. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you look at the news and you look at Facebook, you're already starting to fill your brain up with potentially negative stuff, and that's not a great way to start the day.
Yeah, and a lot of entrepreneurs, like, they have, like, their morning routine is the number one thing they focus on to get ready for the day, and every single one of them says they don't look at their phone the first thing. They don't even look at their phone in the first hour. Like, it just, because if they see something negative, or if they read an email about, you know, customer complaint or something, it just sets the mood for the whole day, and it just, you can wake up feeling like so happy, and then just one look at your phone, you're just like, oh.
And if you're into cryptocurrency, don't check that first thing, because the last few weeks you'll want to kill yourself. I wrote that there. Removing negative thing. Actually, that point should have gone in the internal one. Take time off from your worries. If you've got to worry about something, it's still going to be there to worry about tomorrow or later on. Don't think you've constantly got to have it in your head. Or if you're going to bed and you're worrying about something, literally write it down. It'll be there in the morning for you, but you don't have to think about it right then and there, especially if it's not something that you can solve.
Yeah, and I think doing that generally before you go to bed, like, just brain dump everything, like, even if it's good stuff, if it's stuff that's happened throughout the day, just write it all down. And, like, if you're one of those people who just lie awake in bed thinking, not necessarily worrying about things, but just thinking about everything you've done or everything you've got to do the next day, it's just, your brain really won't turn off. Like write it all down, like brain dump it, and then your brain will be like, okay, that's out now. I don't need to think about it, and hopefully will help you get to sleep as well.
Do you find you worry about things in the middle of the night that are completely like stupid? I write some things down at 2:00 in the morning. I wake up and I was like, why was that even in my brain? Why was I worrying?
Or even not just worry. Like if you have a problem with your brain switching off, which I think I do because I'm constantly like, I have, shiny object syndrome. Like as an entrepreneur, you're constantly thinking of ideas and you get really excited about it. It doesn't even have to be like worries keeping you up. You could literally be lying there thinking about all the stuff you want to do, and that keeps you up. Or you could just be thinking like when you get into the habit of your brain not switching off, you just lie there thinking about that one time in high school where you like fell over or something. Like,
someone threw a spider at you.
And it's just like, oh my god, just like switch off brain. So just dump it all, like write it all down. Like I think what you did, like writing it down in the night, even if it makes no sense in the morning, like it helps.
Give yourself time to relax and literally tell yourself, this is my time to relax. Allow yourself to do it. You've got to have time for yourself.
And away from your phone and computer.
Yeah, definitely. Away from the emails and everything that just gets the brain going again. Just wind down. Do things that you like doing. Painting, knitting, a hobby, even computer games, like shooting some stuff. That's pretty good. Ignore people that tell you negative things. It's easier said than done, but you've got the power to ignore things and choose what to let into your brain.
Yeah, as well with the people telling you negative things negative things thing. If people tell you negative things, it's that thing where you think, I'm just saying thing and think a lot. So if someone tells you negative things, just think to yourself, why am I taking criticism from someone I wouldn't take advice from? Or if they're not in the place you want to be, like if someone were to give me advice about setting up my own business and being an entrepreneur and how I shouldn't do it because it's unstable and it's all that kind of stuff, but they're working a 9-to-5 job and have never tried it, why on earth would I take advice from them?
Yeah.
So why would I take criticism from someone I wouldn't go to for advice? They're not the person for me to give me feedback. And the people in your life who you do go for advice and for feedback, so don't listen to anyone else basically.
And a lot of the time, what business is it of theirs to tell you what you're doing is wrong or how to think? Or they've got their own lives to lead, and what makes them...
Yeah, and I often find that when people say negative things to you, it says way more about them than it does about you. It means they're unhappy with their life and they're trying to stop you from achieving stuff because they don't want to be jealous. A lot of the time it's that kind of thing. Like, they have a horrible job they hate, so they don't want to see someone break out from that and succeed because it's just not something they even consider would be possible for them or anyone they know. So they try and sort of shoot it down because it's so uncomfortable and out of their comfort zone that they can't even, consider it. Whereas entrepreneurs especially, they think bigger than that. They think outside the box and they think that, why not try it and see what happens instead of listening to people who tell them, no, what are you doing?
Do you think that there's to a degree that English people are a bit worse than that? Because I always remember that there was a guy in the office next to mine who had an Aston Martin. And he was a successful guy, and I literally heard people say, "Got an Aston Martin, bastard, wanker." Yet, like, I'd read like American things, and they were like, "Oh, this guy's got a business. Yeah, he's really successful. Good on you, man, living the dream." Are English people kind of more down in the dumps, or?
I think maybe because we're all very sort of polite and stiff upper lip and that kind of thing. But I also think it's a small town thing. No offense, small towns. We both live in one. We were both born in one. But because I find this, I listen to a lot of American podcasts, and I'm in a lot of American sort of business and self-development coaching programs and memberships and things like that. And the reason I joined the American ones, not like mainly because there's a lot of them, like there aren't as many over here, but you're right, they're more sort of positive, they build people up, they're more sort of open to doing things. But having said that, a lot of these people who I listen to, they sort of came from a small town in America where no one was an entrepreneur, no one was doing anything like that, so it really stood out. And they moved to places like LA and like really cosmopolitan places because environment is really important, and they wanted to surround themselves with people who were doing what they wanted to do, were earning way more than they earned, so you see that it's possible. Chris Harder, who I listen to, he's like a money mindset guy. He's constantly going on about your environment. And during the like, was it 2008 or something, when all the banks went...
Financial crash.
Yeah, they lost everything. They went from like a really nice house. They lost everything. They had to sell all their stuff. They had to start all over again. And instead of moving in, they could have afforded like quite a nice house to move into. Still, you know, in America, you know, quite a decent sized house compared to, you know, we live in quite small houses because there's no space. But instead of doing that, they moved into a much smaller apartment in a really wealthy, affluent apartment building, so they could surround themselves with people on a day-to-day basis. They would see really wealthy people and just be in that energy and know that it's possible. And, you know, they'd see people driving amazing cars and they'd hear about their businesses. And, you know, it's all about the people you surround yourself with. And, you know, that whole you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the energy as well. So if you're in a small town and everyone has, you know, a really low paid job and that's all you've ever done in your life, then you can't sort of picture anything else. Whereas if you, and you don't have to physically move, like the whole point is you can listen to podcasts, you can read books, you can watch YouTube videos and surround yourself with people that way. And it gets you in the mindset of this is possible. Like you're constantly hearing about millionaires making money through their own businesses and like solopreneurs and stuff like that. And it's like, it gets you first thinking that it is possible. And then you learn how to actually do it as well. Whereas, yeah, like you say, if you're in an office in a small town and like people are just so, it's not even in their mindset that they could do something like that, then they are going to be like, oh, rich twats, you know, like.
I think you've definitely answered that question, because you're right. It's also the goals of the people that you're listening to. The people that are positive want to bring people up and be positive themselves, whereas the people that I heard call the boss a wanker because he had an Aston Martin, they were his employees that weren't earning anywhere near as much as him and weren't going to. So
yeah, and they never will if they're saying things like that.
And that's fine, if that's what they want.
But if they're moaning about it, it's obviously they're not fine with it, so
yes.
It's that kind of thing.
British people do like to moan about things.
This is true. The weather mainly.
So I guess, before we move on, could you expand on that you are the average of the 5 people that you know?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of mindset people who tell you to do a certain exercise where you write down maybe 5 to 10 people that you spend most time with. The past year has been a bit tricky, but even if it's like virtually spending time with them. And then just like, it's not about cutting people out of your life or saying like, this person isn't positive enough for me. It's not that. It's sort of seeing how they make you feel once you've been with them. Like, do they lift you up? Like, I have friends that I will get on a Zoom call with, and afterwards I'll feel like really uplifted and like I can do anything and really energized. Or do they drain your energy? Because I've had people in the past, you go for a drink with them, and after 2 hours of them moaning about their life, you just want to like punch them in the face and leave.
Attention vampires.
Yeah, they are vampires. They suck the energy out of you. They suck the life out of you. So if you have any of those people on your list, I'm not saying, you know, cut them out. They might be like friends or family members that you have to see. But, you know, just spend less time with them and spend more time with the people who lift you up. Because energy is contagious. And if your 5 best friends are energy vampires, you are not going to feel like confident enough or happy enough to go out and do what you want. Yeah, basically, you list the 5 or 10 people you spend most time around. Identify which ones are energy vampires and which ones build you up, and then it's about trying to spend less time with the people who suck the life out of you, basically. Yeah, and that might mean, you know, instead of going for an all-night drinking session with them, you say, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, but I've got time for like an hour for a coffee, and like just limit the time you have with them, and you know, we'll just do it online or something so it doesn't take quite so much energy to go and meet them physically and that kind of stuff. But yeah, identify who lifts you up and who drains you. Like me and my friend Beth, we're making our way through Laurie Harder's book, A Tribe Called Bliss, at the moment. It's all about sort of getting sort of your women friends together basically, and sort of working on self-development and business stuff. We do more sort of business stuff because we're both sort of setting up businesses and things like that. But we meet every 2 weeks, Zoom or in person, and we sort of go through our little assignments and the chapter that we just read, and we talk about our like goals and stuff for our business. And like after that, I'm, you know, really energized because I've been talking about stuff I like talking about with someone who understands it, because not a lot of people will if you're, you know, going off and doing just sort of a random thing. So that lifts me up. Whereas if I've been on the phone with someone who, you know, just everything is just terrible. Like, I'm not saying I don't want people to come with me. Like, you know, people can come to me with their problems and stuff, but if they're, every time you speak to them, they don't ask how you are, they don't, you know, all they want to do is moan about how rubbish their lives are, and usually they're not actually that rubbish if they were to write down everything they could be grateful for.
No intention of changing it either.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're not asking for help or suggestions or solutions, which I wouldn't mind. They just want to bitch about stuff. And, you know, an hour of that, I mean, that can, like, as an introvert especially, like, I find it quite draining being around lots of, like, large groups of people, and small talk really drains me. Like, I'm just like, what is the point of this? Like, wasting time. Like, could be doing productive work, could be talking about something really interesting. So, like, an hour-long conversation like that, it can literally drain me for the rest of the day, and I just feel rubbish for the rest of the day. Like, it affects me that much. So just cutting out people, you know, bit by bit, getting, you know, smaller doses of them basically, and spending more time with the people who lift you up, and the energy thing, but also surround yourself with people who are more successful than you and are doing what you want to do, because you can learn from them and it shows you that it's possible and stuff. If you're constantly surrounding yourself with people at the same level as you, then, you know, you can still learn from each other, but it's not elevating you to that next level.
Okay, thank you. The last thing on removing external negative influences I think is important is learning not to take things personally. People will say negative things to you for a number of reasons, not because they know what they're talking about, but because they're jealous, they're bored. Some people are just trolls and try and want to get a reaction, and they'll say things that are nasty just to see how you react, because it makes them feel big in some way.
Because they've got literally nothing else in their lives.
I've written here, people can be asshats, which I think is a good word.
It's a really good word and a really good point.
And my favourite saying, people gonna peep. People gonna peep.
Haters gonna hate and people gonna peep.
Do peep things, that's what they do. Just ignore them, get on with your own stuff, let them get on with their stuff. Don't let it bother you or cross over.
Yeah, as long as you're going after what you want and you're happy with what you're doing, it literally doesn't matter what someone else is saying about you.
Good sleep is important.
It is very important. Like, if I don't get enough sleep, I can't function.
I'm a dragon. There is a very fine line between being able to deal with things and just wanting everything to burn in a fire.
Yeah, if I don't sleep, I'm like low energy. I just want all the sugar. I don't want to do the work that I need to do and that I want to do. I just don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
It ruins everything. So like sleep and mindset, I'd say, the two most important things for like everything.
And lack of sleep turns that negative voice way up in my head.
Yeah.
It's shouting at me. It's just like everything could go away. And sometimes you can counteract it with coffee, but it doesn't last long, and then you gotta have a coffee crash after that. So things to get good sleep. We talked before, don't check your phone and stuff before bed, not just because it gets your mind racing and put it in a certain state, but the blue light that gets into your head and wakes you up, and that's why.
And if you absolutely do like have to look at something, like make sure your phone's on a setting so that at a certain time the light dims. Like, you can change your settings so it's on like night mode, and you can do that on your laptop as well. It sort of changes the colour slightly so it's less blue light and more like yellowy light, which is a bit weird if I do work late sometimes. I know I shouldn't, but like if I'm sort of working on websites and stuff and like the colours are all off, I'm like, what's going on? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you look at it the next day and it's completely different colour palette to what you intended, but it's still good.
I find I try and stop drinking anything before 8 o'clock at night, because I must have the bladder of a sparrow, and it gets me up all night going to the loo, and that obviously disturbs your sleep.
Yeah, and sugar as well does that as well, because I've been cutting down on sugar recently, like a lot. And like processed foods, like added sugar and all that kind of stuff, and I've been sleeping through the night.
Oh, good.
Like, where it never happens. Yeah, like a baby.
Well, babies don't.
But baby, yeah, I never get
that.
That saying. But yeah, that obviously stays in your system. Like caffeine and sugar stay in your system way longer than you think they do. So
I've stopped having caffeine after midday.
Yeah, because it stays in your system, I think 10 hours or something.
Really?
Yeah.
I've found with caffeine, I can get to sleep fine, but once I wake up at like 2 or 3 o'clock, I can't get back to sleep.
Yeah.
That's when caffeine seems to get me. You might have heard it in this video, there's a cockerel that lives just outside there on the allotments, and it does my nut in. When I've not had much sleep, I have called it things like a nuggety prick in front of its owner without realising. But I've tried about 10 different types of ear plug, and I've finally found some that I can wear all night and block all the sound, and it's great, and now I'm sleeping perfectly, and I'm like a new man.
Awesome.
Highly recommended. I've written here, place cockerels in soundproof booths.
Yeah.
Proof.
Soundproof
Booths. Okay, next thing we want to talk about is changing your state. So let other things take your mind off negativity and encourage positivity.
And just off things in general, like if you've been working really hard and you're stuck because you've been working so hard and you've been trying to figure something out for hours, if you just go outside and have a walk for 10 minutes because you're not thinking about it, and I find movement helps a lot. Like an idea can just pop in your brain, and it's like, it's not until you stop and don't think about it that, you know, you allow your brain space to actually go, okay, what can we actually do about this?
Like programming, I can be working on a problem and I can't figure something out, and you go to the loo, and as soon as you stop, the code's not in front of you, you find the solution, it's just there. You're giving your brain some space to think about it.
Yeah.
Meditation, music, walking. Meditation's really good. That's another thing that some people think is like a hippie thing. It's got like bad press sometimes, but it's not necessarily covering yourself in flowers and in the middle of a field.
You can do that if you want.
You can do. It's about being able to spot the thoughts entering your head and learning how you think, able to stop those thoughts and replace them. And it's not about emptying your mind, is it? It's about seeing what's going on and being aware of what's going on in your mind.
And yeah, I find walking, movement in general does it for me, and water for some reason.
Drinking it or being in it?
Being in it.
All right,
or
okay.
around it. Like if you're by a lake maybe, or if you're swimming. I've started going swimming regularly recently. Like, or just in the shower. Like shower thoughts are a thing. Like it comes up a lot in the groups I'm in, like all the entrepreneur groups and stuff. Like I listen to like podcasts and stuff while I'm getting ready, but if I'm not listening to anything, your mind wanders when you're in the shower, because like there's literally nothing else to do, is that you're not watching TV or anything. Well, maybe you're, I don't know. But that's when like ideas come to you. So I find that, and just water in general does it for me, like, or the sound of water, or, you know, it's getting yourself out of your usual space and your usual state.
Are you a mermaid?
Maybe.
Yeah. Listen to positive podcasts. I know there's quite a few you listen to. Do you want to do a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, I literally listen to podcasts every day, and pretty much all day. Like if I'm getting ready in the morning, if I'm like walking around my house, if I'm doing chores and stuff, if I'm getting my food ready, like literally any moment, unless I want to listen to music, or if I just need silence or something, then I'll have a podcast on, because it's just constant. Well, depending on the podcast you listen to, it's constant like positive propaganda going in your ear. Even if you're not like necessarily listening to some things when you're getting ready and stuff like that, it's still there in the background. And I find that, you know, if I'm listening to self-development podcasts or stuff about business, and there's like really inspirational people being interviewed about how they took their business and they went from like owning $1 in their bank account to like being a millionaire and stuff like that, that you can't listen to that kind of stuff and be negative, unless you're the kind of people we talked about earlier who would just be like wankers. You're always going to get those people, but if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're not that person. So yeah, some of the ones I listen to, there's one called Earn Your Happy by Laurie Harder, and I mentioned her book earlier as well, A Tribe Called Bliss. She also has a husband, Chris Harder, which I think is called The Chris Harder Show. It used to be called For the Love of Money. It was all about money, but it's basically about giving back and being generous and all that kind of stuff. The Boss Babe podcast, I'm in their membership, and they're two Brits who are like kicking ass in America, so they're like huge mentors of mine. Powerhouse Women with Lindsay Schwartz, that's another great one. I've just signed up for her. She does an event every year called Powerhouse Women, but she's doing a virtual element this year, so I can watch it from England, even though it's going to be like midnight, but I'm still really excited. Girlfriends in Business, Chill and Prosper with Denise Duffield Thomas, the Angie Lee Show. There's just like so many out there, and they're all like really cool. I do listen to a lot of those women ones, but I do listen to like other ones too. But like it's just like something about hearing people going after their dreams and achieving them, which is basically the basis of every single podcast I just mentioned, even if they go off on tangents. And it's not like I listen to one when I go for a walk. I've got it like in my hand in my phone as I go around doing stuff with my day, and it just keeps me feeling positive and like I can actually achieve the stuff I'm trying to achieve. Whereas if I wasn't listening to these, I wouldn't even be aware of half the stuff I wanted to achieve because I wouldn't know it was out there. Because like I say, there's not a lot of sort of female solopreneurs killing it online in our little town that I know of.
They are the people that you are becoming the average of as you're exposed to.
Yeah, exactly. So it is like, spending time with someone, listening, especially like podcasts, books, yes, but podcasts especially, because you're literally listening to their voices. It's the same with listening to books on Audible and stuff like that. Like, you are spending time with them, like hours and hours a day, so more than I spend time with my friends at the moment with the pandemic and everything. So it definitely fits into that, the people you spend most time with.
The last thing that we wrote down on here was smile and laugh, even if it's forced. Why does that work?
Well, I don't know the science behind it, but you get a lot of laughing classes. You can literally go and pay and be in a class, and you'll be in a group of people. And I'm sure they do more than just laugh. They probably go through why it works and stuff like that. I've never been to one. But I mean, it's like, you're walking down the street and someone smiles at you and you smile back. You immediately feel better. Like someone saw me, and just the act of like smiling rather than frowning, I think does something. And then laughing takes it to another level. And I think it gets to the point where if you're literally fake laughing at yourself, it makes you laugh in real life, because you're like, what am I doing? This is so ridiculous. And then that gets, the endorphins and the energy like flowing.
So it actually change the chemicals in your brain?
I think so. I don't quote me on this. I'm not a scientist, obviously.
Well, so you literally force yourself to laugh?
Well, it's like literally everything we've been saying. Forcing yourself to tell yourself positive things instead of negative things changes your brain. So usually if you're laughing, you're having a good time, you're feeling good.
Should we do it?
So it makes you... Okay, go on. I'm gonna do it. That was a Jimmy Carlin.
My neighbours are going to be like, what the...
See, that made me laugh.
That cockerel's getting some of its own medicine. Moving on, community and connection and its power on positivity.
Yeah, I'm all about this at the moment because I work from home, I live on my own. I've worked from home since 2014, but I've sort of lived with other people in that time. So living on your own, working on your own, and especially with the pandemic, like people haven't been going out as much and stuff, it can be really easy to sort of feel overwhelmed by everything and sort of ask yourself why you're doing this, if you're like doing something like starting a business or writing a book or something like that. So community, even if it's online, and a lot of it is nowadays anyway, and I think will be going forward, it just like changes the game completely. I'm in a couple of paid memberships with other female entrepreneurs. I'm in a coaching program, which are female entrepreneurs as well, for business, and I'm in Facebook groups for all three of those, and I'm in lots of Facebook groups as well for like stuff I haven't paid for. And it's just having people it's like surrounding yourself with people again.
Having a tribe.
Yeah, exactly. And you can log on and you can see other people striving to do the same stuff or similar stuff that you're doing. You can ask questions, you can get feedback and all that kind of stuff. I recently did like a week of market research calls as part of my business coaching program. And I talked to women from like all over the world. I had like India, Spain, America, Bali, the Netherlands, England. And when you're working alone and that kind of thing, it can get quite lonely, and you sort of, the postman comes, you're like, hello, or like a pigeon comes outside your window, like, oh my god, like someone else. So like talking to people from all over the world is really cool, and that's actually what gave me the idea for Girl, What's Your Story? Because we all came from completely different backgrounds, completely different countries, but we were all striving to be successful entrepreneurs, and we were all in this community together, and we all had so much in common because of that. So that's where sort of like the idea came from. And it's learning from each other. It's knowing you're not alone. It's a sense of belonging, surrounding yourself with the people you want to be around and people who are more successful than you, like I said. And just giving value, getting value, and I think just community makes you feel so much more positive about anything you want to do. Like,
you say it's also validating as well. If you've got any doubts that what you do, that you're good at what you do, people can see what you do. You put yourself out there and they'll be like, hey, that's really good. And you know that these people are telling the truth, so if they say it, you must be doing good at what you do.
Yeah, whereas if you've just been like on your own trying to figure it out yourself with no feedback from anyone, like you have no clue what you're doing, or if you're heading in the right direction, or so yeah, community, if you can get real life community groups as well, like even better.
So you say you've just started Girl What's Your Story. How do you become a member of that group?
Yes, you can go to girlwhatyourstory.com. I'm also on Instagram as Girl What's Your Story, and part of that is the Write Your Story project, which is what came out of my market research. And it's basically telling stories of female entrepreneurs from all over the world and seeing how we connect with each other. So it's sort of hearing people's stories and connecting over continents. And basically you can take a couple of things. I've got like a workbook coming out and a one-on-one service where I help people write their personal brand stories and use that to filter into every bit of their content they use, so they know where they're coming from and they can sort of really resonate with their ideal client on a personal level. So you can do that. You can do the workbook, or if you already have your story, then you can send it in, and I'll be featuring women on the Instagram page.
Cool.
Their stories, their pictures, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually the idea is to gather enough of them that I can put them into a book and self-publish that and have the proceeds go to some kind of female entrepreneur charity.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put links to that in the description of the video underneath. We wanted to touch on health and fitness and how that affects positivity. Like just moving around a small amount can have a massive effect compared to just sitting at a desk all day. When you exercise, you get the endorphins, you get that rush. Although I've not found that myself. I go to the gym and I've been waiting for these endorphins, and all I get is angry in the gym.
Maybe it's because you're expecting them and you're waiting for them and you're focusing so much on that you're like expecting something amazing, whereas actually it's just a little kind of like boost.
I'm not even getting that.
Maybe you need to try different kinds of exercise.
Maybe that's it, yeah. Well, like you said, go for a walk or something different. Maybe it's just boring being on the cross trainer.
A lot of people hate gyms because it's just not very stimulating.
It's very people-y as well.
It is, yeah.
I think that takes its toll.
Yeah.
Not worrying, but thinking, are people looking at me? No, they're not. Nobody.
They're thinking the exact same thing.
Exactly,
people
yeah.
are looking at me.
So maybe it's something I just need to get over. I don't know. I started going with a friend now, and that's helpful.
Yeah, that definitely helps. Like with anything, if you have an accountability buddy, like that is what takes you to the next level, especially for me. If I'm accountable to myself, I won't do it. If I'm accountable to someone else, I will. And that's true for me with like exercise, nutrition, business. Like I pretty much got a mentor or a coach for every bit of my life now, because I will not stick to it otherwise.
I'll tell you what I get the most out of exercise, and it's not necessarily the exercise, it's when I'm not exercising, I'm thinking I should be exercising and I'm feeling guilty, and that weighs quite heavily on my mind. So even if I just go to the gym for 20 minutes and get on the exercise bike, I'll come back and I'll be like, right, I've ticked that box, I don't feel guilty anymore, I can crack on with something.
Yeah, you can focus on other stuff.
We said before, avoid a lot of heavy alcohol sessions. I mean, at my time of life now, I don't go on as many as I used to.
Especially last year.
Oh, yeah, true. Because again, it makes that negative voice louder, and not to mention the empty calories. That's very aware of that.
I've always had bad hangovers, but these days my hangovers, they last all day. I literally can't do anything. I can't function. I can't do anything, and that annoys me because I have so much stuff I want to do, so many things I want to achieve, that if I've like written off a day and I'm not even feeling good on that day, like I can't go and do something fun, it's like, it really annoys me. I annoy myself because I know it's coming.
You've
as well.
got yourself into that situation.
It's not a surprise.
your body needs good quality fuel as well as your brain does. You need to put good things into it for it to process and give you the energy that you need. So like you said, sugar, while it's a short-term boost, it can be really
It has really bad effects for everything, like your skin, your brain, inflammation. It's really bad for inflammation. And I had a back injury the past couple of years, which is why we're doing the video standing up, because I can't sit down, I can't sit down for long periods of time. And I mean, like sugar makes inflammation really like a lot worse.
Really?
So that's why I'm really trying to cut back on it and just eat healthier and move more. And yeah, like I say, like you get the brain fog from sugar, and like I say, I get a sugar hangover, and I just feel like just really lethargic and low on energy and that kind of stuff. So it might give you a little boost, but in the long term, it's probably not going to give you any kind of boost at all, and it's going to do the opposite.
Okay, awesome.
We decided to split our video on positivity into 3 parts, so if you like what you've heard so far, please like and hit subscribe, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and click to watch part 3 of 3 now.